So I recently read a book and it's called Big Magic, and it's not like a Christian book. So like there's more thoughts in there that are like universe based, so not 100% aligned with everything. But however, it had a lot of very interesting ideas on creativity and how to approach creativity and all of that fun stuff, and it really really inspired me. And it kind of got my brain thinking in this direction of like what is creativity and then how do we steward it well, and that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? Because it's just interesting. And I honestly did a ton of research on best practices on how to instigate creativity in your life, but also grow it, all the fun things, okay? So let's jump in. The drink of choice today is a dirty chai. And honestly, it's just so good. It's been raining all day long, so it was hot today. Usually I do my chai teas iced, but today it just needed a hot chai tea. I've also spent all day reading a book. I am currently reading for fun. It's called The Vow of Thieves and then The Dance of Thieves. It's like a duology. How do you say that word? Duology. So it's two books and it's interesting. It's maybe a smidge slower than like I usually like, but it's cute. I finished the book and I honestly can't tell you that much about what it's about, except kingdoms. I don't really know. War. Yeah. I read it. It was decent. I gave it a 4 on Goodreads, and now on to the next, I guess. So, anyways, I have been really loving all of the fun, like fiction books, and I love a good thriller. I love a good, like, fantasy read. I love a good romancy, cute, like, rom com book, all of that, okay? But I've also, like, challenged myself to read things that are gonna help me grow, like, as a human being. So I also read those. And one of the books that I read was Big Magic. Jeez, I gotta get it together over here, okay? Big Magic. And it was just very interesting because it talks a lot about like paying attention to the spark of creativity in your life and kind of playing with creativity as if it's almost like an idea, not just like a tool that we use. So it was really, really interesting. So I did some research, as you guys know, I like to do. And I really wanted to figure out like kind of what the Bible said about creativity. And it's interesting, okay? So I think creativity is often thought of like a human concept, like it's a secular thing, not because it's anti-religion or anti-God, but just because it's a human experience to be creative. But we are all creations by the creator, the like ultimate creativity. And so, Genesis 1 starts off with creation, where God creates all living things, and it's so beautiful. But then it's like intricately woven throughout human experiences, also. The main area that I really, really love to see it was talking about the tabernacles design throughout the Old Testament and the temple's design throughout the Old Testament. Just the way that like these architects like just took so much time and the creativity that they put into these buildings to honor God. That was really cool. And then additionally, like if you think about Jesus, he was a carpenter, so like that's creative, but also like the parables that he told, that was like creativity at its finest. He was like telling these stories and teaching through it, and the way he wove the tales together. All of that is creativity. And it's like these methods that just inspire a lot of people to start thinking outside of the box. So, all that being said, we can see that creativity is a reflection of God's image, and it's in us. It's stamped on our humanity because we are created by him. So we all have the ability and the talents to be creative. It's just a matter of unleashing that within us and allowing us to have the space to be creative. I think for me, like if you would have asked me growing up if I was creative, I would have said no, definitely not, because it was a box that I didn't think I checked, where like I had friends who were incredible at drawing or really just artistic, or maybe they were in theater or whatever. And to me, those were creative people. But because I was more sports orientated and was playing like volleyball and I was, cheering in college and all of that, I always thought that that was more of where I leaned, and I wasn't a creative person. But that's not true, because like the Bible really shows us that creativity is, it's not about making something new. It's about bringing order to chaos, or like beauty out of the things around you. So, sure, that can be done through like painting, that can be done through composing music, or maybe it's through solving a complex problem, whether it's math or at work or whatever. No matter what, if you're bringing order to chaos, like that is a form of creativity. And that might sound strange, especially like when you think of like modern art, like, but when you think of just all of the paint sitting there and then the way that people are able to take the paint that's just there and turn it into something so beautiful, it is really bringing like order to chaos. So when I started thinking of creativity that way, I was like, wow, like problem solving is a version of creativity. And that was interesting to me. It really was. Okay. So, all that being said, with the big magic, then it really does teach you to approach creativity with this sense of like playfulness. Like, the author, she calls it being a trickster. And it's just like supposed to be lighthearted. And it's really not supposed to be something where you're taking yourself so seriously, because when we take ourselves so seriously with creativity, we're not allowing ourselves to experiment or to mess up or anything like that. And that's just not really great. So when we face resistance in our creativity, whether that is lack of motivation or maybe a problem arises, it's not necessarily a sign that you're doing something wrong or you need to stop with that creativity outlet. It's just kind of addressing the fact that you're on the right track and you can keep going. So that's my intro for why we're talking about creativity, because I think a lot of us don't allow ourselves to lean into the fact that we are inherently created to be creative. And that can take on so many beautiful forms. So all that being said, all that chaos for you. Let's talk about how to unlock creativity. And I came up with 5 kind of like, I'm not going to say like unique because they're not unique, but maybe a little bit more thought provoking ideas on how to unlock some creativity for you and tips on how to do that. So that way, if you're feeling either like you're not a creative person and you're not really sure how to address that for yourself, or you're feeling like, you know, I am creative, but I'm kind of hitting like a roadblock. Um, that's okay because we're going to talk about ways to get over it. So let's do it. Number 1, this is my personal favorite because it's the way my brain works, is mind mapping. Freaking love a good mind mapping session. Okay, so if you've never done mind mapping before, it's amazing. So what you're going to do is you're going to have like a piece of paper, or I guess you could do this on your computer, but I'm a handwriting person, and you have like a theme in the middle. So like if you're trying to solve a problem, or you have to release a new merchandise item, or you need to figure something out for school, whatever it is, you're going to write in the middle, like this idea of like, let's say you want to write a paper on something. You're going to write your theme, your title, whatever it is in the middle, and then you circle it. And then from there, you like kind of have these lines draw off of it, and you have connecting ideas and you circle those, and then more ideas kind of stretch out from those ideas. So everything's connected back by lines to your main theme. And it allows your brain to kind of run rampant, and maybe you realize that your main theme isn't your main theme, or you think of things that you never even would have connected had you not known. And it's really, really helpful to just brainstorm for big business ideas, for anything problem solving. I always find that if I'm in a rut creatively, it is so beneficial to just and do some mind mapping on whatever I need to talk about. It's 10 out of 10 and I absolutely love it. So you start with your central theme and then you branch out from there, and every little circle can get even more branches put onto it. So that's a fun time, okay? Next. Okay, this is so interesting to me because I'm probably not the best at it. Just truthfully, I'm honest. Yeah, I would not say I'm the best at this, but it's called creative cross training. Okay, creative cross training. This is where you try to find a creative outlet that is not at all connected to where you're feeling blocked creatively, and do that. Okay, so for an example, okay, if you're a writer, you should go paint. If you're feeling like you need to try to inspire some creativity in your life, or if you're a musician, you should go cook. Okay? Because when you mix things up like this, you can stimulate new ideas in your brain, or like different approaches to whatever you were about to do. And this is really interesting, especially if you're using different muscles, as crazy as that sounds, because it works different parts of your brain. So if you can try to like get creative in a different way, it'll activate different parts of your brain. It's really, really interesting, the science behind it. I read a whole thing on it from some doctor. Can't remember his name. That's unfortunate. But it was really fascinating because this like cross training exercise helps all of a sudden new ideas pop up, or you'll be inspired by what you're doing now. I personally find the cooking one is shockingly helpful. I've been cooking a lot more lately, which is fine. It's not like my favorite thing to do. Like, I'm not like someone that's like, oh, yes, let's go to the kitchen and cook. But I do find that after a long day of doing either writing the book or working on the podcast or whatever it is helpful to like take some time to go cook a meal. And then somehow I'm always more inspired coming back. It's just true. So that's really helpful. And this isn't necessarily creative, but also like, you guys know I'm a big, big walk break person. Like, take a break, go on a walk. Because I think there's just something about moving different muscles and working different parts of your brain to kind of realign things. It's really helpful. So that's creative cross training. Number 3 is solitude. Oh, I cannot say enough about this. Listen, there is beauty in collaboration for creativity. There is. And when you're getting someone else's opinion on what you're doing, that's great because other people can see things that maybe you can't see. It's a good thing. But there comes a time, and I find this specifically with students who have recently graduated or are currently in school, where you're so used to someone checking your work, someone grading what you're doing, that it's hard to release that need for approval from someone else, that it can hinder you creatively. Truthfully, okay? So, allowing yourself to be alone for some things in a space of innovation is huge. It is so beneficial to you. And this is not just in all of your creative endeavors, this is also in like professional settings too. Because at some point in your life, you're not going to have someone checking your work. You're not going to have someone that is going to be grading you. And when that time comes, you have to be able to be confident in your work and what you're doing and whatever you're creating to let it stand up by itself. And when we're constantly seeking the approval of other people, even if you're outside of an academic setting, it just begins to hinder your confidence for yourself and then ultimately your entire creative journey. So take some time to really embrace solitude. Give yourself the space to think deeply and explore things on your own, and not just away from other people, but away from distractions too. And that is really freaking hard for me to do. I'm not going to lie to you. Anytime I go to sit down and like work on a project or work on writing a podcast episode, any of that, I always have like music in the background or something going on. And it's a good like way for me to just kind of disassociate a little bit. And that's not healthy. That's not great. So, something that I am currently really trying to just grow in myself is allowing allowing me to be alone. Literally. Genuinely, like truly alone, not having voices around me, whether it's music, podcast, audiobook, other people, whatever it is. And the creativity flows like you wouldn't believe. It's always awkward. I would honestly say it's awkward for the first like 3 to 5 minutes, sitting there alone with your thoughts, not really sure. But then all of a sudden, you forget to think about the fact that you're alone, and creativity really does begin to flow, and you're able to kind of embrace things a little bit faster. So, anytime I do my planning meetings, whether it is weekly or monthly, I actually am very intentional. Those are the areas that I'm currently trying to just be creative in. And I know that might sound crazy that like creating a calendar is a form of creativity for me, but it really is. I color code everything, and it's fun to build out a schedule for myself each week of what I need to do, what I want to do, and all of that. And to do it silently, I leave those meetings with myself so inspired. And I'm like, you know what? I should get a jump on all these things. I'm feeling really inspired about what we're going to talk about in the podcast this week, all of that. And it's always done in complete solitude. And that's just been a really big game changer for me. And I'm excited as I start getting better at that to pull in solitude to other aspects of my life, because it really just is so, so helpful. Okay. So that was number three. So the first one was engage in mind mapping. Second one was creative cross training. Third one was solitude. Now we're on our fourth one, which is sensory exploration. That makes it sound so weird. I know that, guys, okay? But I'm not kidding. When you start to experiment with different textures, different scents, different tastes, it really does, similarly to when we talked about the creative cross training, allow all of your senses to become involved. And when we do that, it can inspire us in ways that you wouldn't believe. Like, genuinely, like smelling candles. You have to be careful with this because it can get overwhelming fast. But like, even smelling like a candle or something that just like smells good can like take you back to a memory, and the memory can stir a different idea, and it just goes on and on and on. Okay. So sensory exploration is really big. A couple ways you can do this. You could go to an art gallery. Crazy as that sounds, sometimes they're free and local. Other times it's a very small fee to get in. And these are kind of crazy. I cannot believe how much I enjoy a good art gallery now. I'm not like an art person. I'm not like someone who's hanging expensive art in her house. I honestly don't really get art. I'm not really sure you're supposed to get art, truthfully. But I will say, going to an art museum, there is some sort of level of elegance that I just love about it. And there is something inspiring about knowing that the artist put so much into that piece. I think that in itself is so cool, on top of the fact that visually it's really stimulating. That's just so cool. Another thing, attending concerts. I kid you not, if I am ever in a rut for inspiration, go to a good concert, even if it's one like at your church. I'm not saying like you have to go to the freaking Eras tour and spend $700 on a ticket, okay? Like the free ones outdoors, whatever. Listening to music in a public setting where people are screaming around you, or maybe it's outdoors, whatever, on such a high volume, it really is inspiring to me. It really is. That auditory stimulation. It's fantastic. Next, I feel like this is kind of on the nose, but I mean, trying new foods. Okay. The reason why you try new foods is because it like exposes you to a different sensation. Okay. And that's just super interesting to me because I do think that when I'm traveling, travel in itself can be super inspiring, but also the idea of like enriching yourself in a culture enough to like be eating their foods while present with them, that's just really, really, I don't even know. I feel like the word inspiring doesn't like really cover it. It allows me to feel incredibly creative in those moments. And it's something that I genuinely just love to do when we're traveling. And then when we get home to continue that experience, I remember when I got home from London, I kid you not, I was so set that I was going to start having afternoon teas. I don't, but I kind of want to bring it back because that had just inspired me so much. And I loved it. I love the idea of curating an afternoon tea for myself, like a nice snack, a little bit of milk in my tea, and just leaving the space for myself to kind of take a breath, all of that. And that was just amazing to me. So that has to do with your like taste buds, and it also helps with like your creativity side then. Okay. So sensory exploration's huge. Okay, fifth one, reverse thinking. Okay, reverse thinking. This is something that I've been trying lately, and it's kind of fun because you never know where your thoughts are going to go. So, let me give you an example, okay? So like a reverse thinking is, instead of sitting there saying, "What should I create?" So like let's say you own a business and you're trying to figure out what your next product is, instead of sitting there and being like, "Okay, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do?" It's a lot of freaking pressure. You should switch it and say, okay, what should I eliminate? What should I not do here? What if I do the opposite? And when you ask yourself those questions, you're quite literally, it's like your brain is on a path. It's sending like these neurons and it's thinking a certain way. When you reverse it and you all of a sudden switch up and start having your neurons fire a different direction towards the negative, it's so interesting because your brain will start to think in a different direction, but then either A, it'll get pulled back to the first one with a brand new idea, or B, it's going to come up with something completely new that you wouldn't have thought of because you're going against the grain. And that right there is so freaking fascinating to me because it really, really does work. It leads to these unexpected insights and solutions that you really wouldn't have known to look for outside of this. And that is, it's just so cool. It really is. So, as silly as that sounds, that's probably one of the easiest ones. Like, you're not having to go do sensory exploration, or like go like sit by yourself for a while, or do some creative cross training, or even like mind mapping. Like, you're not doing any of that. Like, you're literally like, okay, what about the opposite of this? Like, I'm supposed to be doing this. What's the opposite? And yeah, it's interesting. It's not like a cure all for every time you have like writer's block or creativity like blockage. It is something that can help stimulate ideas in the moment and really help with innovation as you're growing. So that one's just really interesting to me. Okay. So, anyways, those are the 5 exercises, tips, tricks, whatever you want to call them, that I've really leaned into when it comes to sparking creativity in my life or honing that craft, because it is kind of a skill that you have to work on, which is hard. It's hard. Um, but I really do want to kind of circle back to the fact that like creativity flows from a deep relationship with the creator. And when we align with his purpose, which is so beautiful, our creativity is no longer about us. It's no longer just ours. It's a powerful force then that is really for the kingdom, and it's all about bringing light to the darkness and serving glorifying God. And so when we use creativity as that mechanism to glorify God, it is just so much more powerful than it is if we just keep it for ourselves, or if we use it to elevate ourselves. So all that being said, keep that in mind as you think about your creative endeavors. And seriously, think about ways to get creative this week in small ways. I mean, seriously, you would be shocked. There are so many little things that you can do each and every day, just to bring a little bit more of this into your life. And it's really a way that you were designed. You were created in the image of God, and God is the creator of all. So of course you have creativity in your veins, even if it's not on the nose, like you're drawing or making music. And if you are, well, then that's beautiful. And if you feel discouraged in any of those things, I hope some of these tools can help kind of lift you back up and help break down some of those barriers that you may have built around your own creativities.